Hi, my name is Lizette. I am an 8th grader at Tafoya Middle School. I have proudly lived in the city of San Antonio on the west side for my whole life. I learned about the Esperanzas through a solar mural project that involved me and my 5th grade class at JT Brackenridge. El Museo del Westside would be very important to me and to my community because through the museum we would be allowed to share what our heritage, our culture, and our story of the West Side is really about. The Rinconcito de Esperanza is located on the west side, across from JT Brackenridge Elementary School. For over 15 years, the Esperanza has been presenting concerts and art exhibits, workshops and festivals like the annual Museo del Westside. The area includes the Casa de Cuentos, the Mujer Arte Studio, several other buildings, and of course, Rubens Ice House. Rubens is going to be the location of the new Museo del Westside. Rubens Ice House was built in the 1930s and in the 1950s. It became the M&E grocery store. In 1959, the Reyes family added a seating area out front to sell food and named it Rubens Ice House. It was always a place for the community to gather. When the family sold the building to Esperanza, they said they hoped it would continue to serve Westside families. Esperanza has helped to preserve many historic buildings and is a model for green building in the Westside. In 2017, they completed the Mujer Arte Studio at the Rinconcito, built out of compressed earth block adobe. Esperanza has involved the community at every phase in the process, from brainstorming and planning to actually assisting in the construction process. The West Side has so much beautiful history that people don't know about. The singers and artists that came from this neighborhood, the political leaders and activists, the healers and midwives, and the regular neighborhood people. They all have important stories to share at the museo.
Museums are spaces, places of memory, of history, of culture. We do not have a permanent museum that reflects and reveals and interprets and explores and collects and preserves the history, material, culture of the West Side.
At the Casa de Cuentos, hundreds of neighborhood elders have shared their stories about our history. They've also donated their old photos from the late 1800s and early 1900s to Esperanza's West Side archives, and even donated items to be part of the exhibits. For example, famous singers like Beatriz Llamas, Rita Vidauri, and Blanca Rodriguez have donated some of the dresses that they used to wear on stage. And families from the neighborhood have donated other historic items like a metate for making tortillas to teach young people like me how they used to prepare food. It's exciting to think that in the future, students like me will be able to come on field trips to learn about the history of our own neighborhood and all of the amazing people who have grown up here and gone on to change the world.
I support the Museo del Westside because it has started out as a community-based museum with a lot of input from different members of the community.
Esperanza has a long history of presenting cultural programs in the West Side and of collecting West Side history. Last year, they did an exhibit on the history of the public housing and the Alizan courts. And this year, they did an exhibit on the history of women leaders in the West Side, celebrating the 100th anniversary of women getting the right to vote.
There's always been a negative stereotype of the west side of San Antonio, and this museo has the opportunity to break all those stereotypes, to tell the historic, the complex history of the west side.
The real story of the West Side is the story of the people who live here, the talented artists, the community leaders, the elders who have shared their stories, the families who still live here, and the kids like me who are the future of our community. There is so much heritage and culture and diversity that we share throughout our neighborhood with one another, and through El Museo, we would be allowed to then share it with the world.